Over to the next, for which we have Dr. Ghanshyam Goel. He's a MD Medicine and is a head of Department of Diabetology and Consultant Internal Medicine, ILS Hospital from Kolkata. So he's going to speak on the diabetic foot infection, when to suspect and how to classify it. So over to you, sir.
Very good morning, friends, colleagues. At the outset, first I thank Dr. Mayur Patel, Dr. Mona Shah, and Team Swasthakon for inviting me to share my screen with you guys in this near normal times. So, diabetic foot infection today I'm going to discuss. As you all know, it is one of the most important part in the management of diabetic foot. So, when to suspect and how to classify. As we all are aware, every 20 seconds, someone is amputated across the globe. And lifetime risk of people with diabetes to develop a foot ulcer is staggering 34%. Initially, we used to say 15%, then 25%, now it's 34%. And more than 50% of diabetic foot ulcers become infected. And this is one of the very good review article by the Benjamin Lepsky and team, Diabetic Foot Infections, What Have We Learned in Last 30 Years? And what they have done in a comprehensive search for the literature from Jan 1960 through June 2015 were performed, and with the emphasis was there on the last 30 years publications. And what they find that the worldwide increase in the incidence of diabetes and longer lifespan of diabetic patients will undoubtedly increase the incidence of DFIs. Clinicians caring for diabetic patients should have an understanding of current methods for preventing, diagnosing, and treating diabetic foot infections. In this study in the diabetes care in 2017, an assessment of 785 million outpatient visits by people with diabetes in the United States between 2007 and 2013 suggested that diabetic foot ulcers and associated infections constitute a powerful risk factor for emergency department visits and hospital admissions. It is the International Working Group of Diabetic Foot Guidelines on the prevention and management of diabetic foot diseases. Diabetic foot infections are associated with substantial comorbidities, frequent healthcare provider visits, daily wound care, antimicrobial therapy, surgical procedures, high health rate costs, and TFIs remain the most frequent diabetic complication, requiring hospitalization and most common precipitating event leading to lower extremity amputation. Outcomes in patients presenting with an infected diabetic foot ulcer is poor. What are the signs of infection or diabetic foot infection? It may be asymptomatic. Redness, warmth, swelling, tenderness or pain may be absent in patients with neuropathy, purulent or neurulent secretions, discolored granulation tissue, undermining of wound edges, or foul odor. What is the initial evaluation of the infection? How it will do? So all wounds are colonized with microorganisms, but in the presence of infection is defined by classic findings of inflammation or purulence, which we have read during our medical school days. Uninfected wounds do not require antibiotics, always remember it. And infection can be classified as mild, moderate, or severe, which I'm going to discuss in a bit detail. And this helps determine which patient requires hospitalization, which require special imaging or surgical procedures, and which will going to land in the amputation. This is a common presentation in our clinics. Which we all see in infected diabetic foot is a hot back compression following fall, blister, progression to ulcers, life-threatening infection. This is a mild diabetic foot infection. You can see it's a moderate diabetic foot infection. Then you can see it's an infection which is non-limb threatening or life-threatening. So it's a sort of limb-threatening infection. And very important, these are very severe DFIs which you all come across in your clinical practice. You can say it is a limb to life-threatening infections which we all come across. So this is a diabetic foot osteomyelitis. How you will diagnose? Probe to bone test is a very specific and sensitive test. It is having a specificity of 85 to 90% and sensitivity of the same range, 85 to 90%. And sausage like toys and the destruction of bones. You can see all these sort of presentations in diabetic foot infection. Then the imaging modalities, most simple is go for a plain X-ray. You can see the foreign bodies like this. You can see osteomyelitis, gas in soft tissue or foreign bodies. And if you suspect soft tissue abscess or diagnosis of osteomyelitis is uncertain, then only we say that you have to go for MRI of foot. And if MRI is contraindicated, then you can go for the radionuclear bone scan or liver WBC scan. Then in the modern day pillars of the modern day management pillars of diabetic foot ulcer is adequate debridement, adequate offloading, adequate vascular assessment, and most important part is treatment of active infection. But because as in our country, more than 75% of patients who are requiring a major amputation or amputations are having on account of neuropathic and infected foot, which is potentially preventable. Then comes the microbiology of diabetic foot. Superficial infections are usually due to single organisms, while deep infections are polymicrobial. Polymicrobial infections are serious infection. Patients should be hospitalized and often caused by multiple bacteria. And aerobes, which are most common, is the staph and the streptococcus. And the gram-negative, it is the Enterobacteriaceae, E. coli, and then the other bacteria. But the Pseudomonas, which is very much common in our country than in case of the Western world. And it is a typical profile of Indian patients in which polymicrobial average 3 organisms isolated per case, aerobic were around 70% and around 30% were anaerobic. And according to the studies of Wagner's classification, first grade 1, grade 2, more than 50% were infected with staph or streptococcus. And then if the grade of ulcer is more, grade 3, 4, and 5, then the significant increase in gram-negative organisms and in the anaerobic bacteria. This paper, this done by Dr. Vijay Vishwanathan, one of close friend. So you see, in India, he have shown most common organisms are staph, then streptococcus, and of course the Pseudomonas. So in different states from India across the country, it is the incidence of Pseudomonas is around up to 30%, ranging from 6 to 30%, while the Streptococcus, then the Staphylococcus, and then E. coli and Klebsiella. These are the different organisms which are there in our country. So one prospective study was conducted in 613 patients with diabetes in Tanzania, Germany, and India, and they reported lesser prevalence of peripheral vascular disease in India and yet a higher rate of amputations among Indians when compared with those in Western countries because of progressive infection. So means infection plays the most important role. In our country, the issue of gram-negative bacilli in India, compared to the Western parts of the world, India has been witnessing an increase in the prevalence of gram-negative bacteria and diabetic foot infection, and most of these bacilli are also multi-drug resistant. So important, remember it. So as we used to say that Pseudomonas is not common in diabetic foot infection. Yes, but Pseudomonas is common in even up to 20-25% of patients is there and is resistant to most of the antibiotics. And in Indians, the Tiwari et al. Have shown that cefotaxime and a combination ciprofloxacin is the most effective the therapy to tackle the Pseudomonas in Indian context. So diabetic foot infection is a serious clinical problem. Properly managed can be cured, but many patients undergo amputation because of improper diagnostic and therapeutic approaches. The germs of infection worsens prognosis in diabetic foot ulcer. Clinical situation can often become limb or life-threatening very rapidly, just like fire in jungle. So what are the signs of worsening infection? Bullae, ecchymosis, crepitus, lymphadenopathy, gas in soft tissues, then fever, chills, delirium, anorexia, hemodynamic instability, tachy, hypotension, metabolic derangements, acidosis, hyperglycemia, electrolyte imbalance, worsening azotemia, and the lab markers increased leukocytosis, elevated ESR, and increased CRP. These are there. And these are bad signs of prognosis. You can see bullae and ecchymosis, and these are gas in soft tissue. These are the worsening signs in cases of diabetic foot infection. Then classify. To classify diabetic foot infection, two simple systems has been developed. One is PADIS. PADIS means perfusion, extent, depth, infection, and sensation. And then the IDSA, Infectious Disease Society of America. And remember it, both the classifications are user-friendly with clear definitions and a relatively small number of categories. And some more complex grading systems such as the D5 wound score can also be used. It assesses wound parameters, purulent discharge, scored as absent or present, signs, symptoms of inflammation such as non-purulent, discharge, erythema, induration, tenderness, and warmth, wound measurement, and all different. But the most simple and best classification in clinical practice to classify the diabetic foot infection is the PADIS and IDSA. So this is very simple. You can see no symptom signs of infection, PADIS grade 1 or uninfected, then mild, moderate or severe, or grade 2, 3, 4 according to PADIS, and according to IDSA, mild, moderate, severe. So if the erythema must be less than 2 centimeter, more than 0.5 centimeter, while in the moderate infection, it should be more than 2 centimeter. It should involve the subcutaneous tissue, osteomyelitis, septic arthritis, fasciitis, all these. And when a patient who is in infection with systemic evidence of infection, it's a severe infection or PADIS grade 4. This is a recently International Working Group on Diabetic Foot in 2019. They have classified is same as that of IDSA, Infectious Disease Society of America classification. They have added 2-3 important things. One is they add 0 O, not 0 O. O means osteomyelitis after 3 or 4. Once if a patient is in osteomyelitis, you add O. So it's a mild infection, moderate infection, or severe infection, just like that. What we have seen it. And very important, some factors suggesting hospitalization may be necessary: severe infections where the intravenous therapy is needed, diagnostic test which cannot be performed as an outpatient, foot ischemia is present, surgical procedures is required. So in that situation, these patients need a hospitalization in this part. About the osteomyelitis, is a serious complication of diabetic foot infection, occurs in up to 20% of mild to moderate infection, and occurs in up to 60% of severe infections. So you see, it should be suspected in any infected deep or large foot ulcer, especially when ulcer is localized to a bony prominence of the foot. MR is recommended for diagnosis if you are in a doubt. Otherwise, X-rays sometimes suffice. And when MR is contraindicated, then the other test is advised. Then about the diabetic foot ulcer classification, because we are discussing regarding the diabetic foot infection, so I have discussed the diabetic foot infection classification. But Wagner's, we all know, easy to use, evaluate depth of wound, osteomyelitis. Then Wagner's grade 1, no superficial ulcer, grade 2 deep ulcer, grade 3 ulcer with osteomyelitis, grade 4 localized gangrene, grade 5 that is the extensive gangrene. This is a simple classification. University of Texas classification, it is presence of ischemia, infection, depth of wound is also evaluated, and but not sufficiently comprehensive on PAD classification. And this is on the diabetic foot ulcer classification, not on the infection. So about the Wi-Fi induction, this is one of the best classification now. This is a wound, ischemia, and foot infection. This is from the Vascular Society of guidelines, and you see these are the 3 things: wound, small ulcer, deep ulcer, extensive ulcer, and then the foot infection, mild, moderate, severe, and the ischemia, toy pressure or TCPO2 more than 60, 40 to 59, 30 to 39, less than 30. So this is the Wi-Fi classification for that. Now the 10 clinical questions for 2012 IDSA guidelines. In which diabetic patients with a foot wound should I suspect infection, and how should I classify it? It's a mild, moderate, to severe. How should I assess a diabetic patient presenting with foot infection? So how will assess? You have to give an answer. When and from whom should I request a consultation for a patient with a diabetic foot infection? It's a teamwork. Always remember, management of diabetic foot is a teamwork. So you should know to whom to refer and when to refer, and how to. It should be a teamwork of foot surgeons, plastic surgeons, infectious disease specialists, vascular surgeon, all, and the podiatrists, nurses, family members, and even patient himself. Which patient with a diabetic foot infection should I hospitalize, and what criteria should they meet before I discharge them? Very important. When and how I obtain specimens for culture from patient with a diabetic foot wound. Then how should I identify, select, and when should I modify antibiotic regime for diabetic foot infection? Take a deep tissue culture, send it, start a empirical therapy, and then if according to culture sensitive report, you can de-escalate or escalate the therapy. When should I consider imaging studies? And how should I diagnose and treat osteomyelitis of the foot in a patient with diabetes? In which patient with a diabetic foot infection should I consider surgical intervention? What type of procedure may be appropriate? You have to remember you have to look for the basically the viable, not the only viable foot, but the movable foot. Means the patient should be able to move or walk. That is most important. Then what type of wound care techniques and dressings are appropriate for diabetic foot wounds? Then general consideration and DeFi, which I have discussed already. So hospitalization. Once diagnosed and severity determined, hospitalization should be considered for some patient with a severe infection, moderate infection and complications, or those who cannot or would not comply with an outpatient treatment regimes. And culture of infection should be taken before the treatment is initiated, except in patients with mild infection. So multidisciplinary management of DFI, imaging, surgery, and antibiotics. And then about the osteomyelitis, then I'm going to discuss a simple case. This known as, we all know, the iceberg phenomena. 55 years male, presented with high-grade fever, restlessness, hiccup, looking very sick, generalized weakness, large bulla, blister on the dorsum of the foot, and there was a chronic ulcer since 6 months on the plantar surface, and there was another ulcer on the another foot, and presentation patient was red, high temperature, low foot. Patient was having uncontrolled diabetes, counts were 22,000, A1C was 11.2, but luckily the renal functions were normal, CRP was high, and patient was immediately hospitalized. We started with empirical antibiotic of piperacillin, tazobactam, and linezolid, and started with incident drainage for the deroofing the bulla, but there was a deep-seated infection. So next day, patient was gone for the extensive debridement. So necrotic changes were seen at the second, third, and fourth toys. Surgical amputation, second, third, fourth, with extensive debridement was performed. Patient was put on VAC, negative pressure wound therapy, and then it was again found that pus was pouring out. So again, a foot exploration was done, blood transfusion has been given, and after some time, patient wound was healthy. Patient was then secondary suturing plus the skin graft was done. So take-home message from this case is, this is a typical case of iceberg phenomena. You should be very cautious in taking care of these cases. What looks a simple wound from outside at presentation could be a potential limb or life-threatening case. So, dear friends, to take home message from my presentation is, diabetic foot infection may often present without any symptoms, usually remains undetected due to neuropathy. Assess the severity of any diabetic foot infection using the Infectious Disease Society of America, IDSA, or International Working Group on Diabetic Foot Classification, or PADIS classification. Treat diabetic foot osteomyelitis with antibiotic therapy for no longer than 6 weeks. And sometimes we are using up to 3 months, 12 weeks. But if the infection does not clinically improve within the first 4 weeks, reconsider the need for collecting a bone specimen for culture, undertaking surgical resection, or selecting an alternative antibiotic regime. And in moderate to severe DFI, urgent surgical consultation is mandatory. Common signs are high fever, tachycardia with uncontrolled diabetes. Local signs include swelling, redness, pain. However, these may mask due to neuropathy or vascular disease. So about 60% of lower extremity amputations in diabetics are due to infected foot ulcers. Remember, it's very important. Infections are usually polymicrobial, which I've discussed. More than 3 bacteria are isolated in our Indian studies and even in the Western world, with aerobic gram-positive and gram-negative organisms and obligate anaerobes. Remember it. If the ulcer grade is higher, at Wagner's grade 3, 4, 5, you will have gram-negative and anaerobes will be there. And diabetic foot infection is a potential emergency and can become serious in a matter of hours. So we should take care of it immediately, and a team, or rather a teamwork to save the limb is mandatory. Thank you very much, dear friends, for giving a patient hearing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an insightful session.